Well, it was Talia Jane, I think was her name. It was a while ago. What? No, nailed it. So she was an employee of Yelp E24. She worked in their customer service call center. So if your food your E24 order didn't get there on time, you would call and yell at her. And she wrote a Medium post about how she doesn't make enough to live. And it was full of these kind of very sort of Baroque descriptions of how broke she is. Like, I should buy one bag of rice, and it's all I was eating out of for a month. And all sort of she lived in this tiny apartment, these long commutes.
She had a one-bedroom.
She had, yes. And it was just about how
a 40-minute commute.
It was just about how hard it was to live in the city of San Francisco.
How hard her life was.
On what she was making. And I didn't share it in terms of I know this person and I fully support who she is personally and her crusade against Yelp. I had no idea if she was even telling the truth. And immediately after the story, people started going to her Instagram and finding photos of her taking pictures of meals that were not bowls of rice and going to
expensive bourbon.
Just going to bars and doing things that you would do with money that sort of hurt her credibility in terms of her story.
Right. She did write this, though, as an employee of the company.
And then she got let go the next day after it was published and sort of went viral. The night of.
And she did talk about the coconut water being bitter.
And then she did have a follow-up afterwards talking about the whole thing.
All right. So
what I had meant when I shared it, and it was rather than I personally vouch for this woman who I don't know and have never met.
Right.
It was, this is a real situation of companies underpaying people, underserving their employees, and trying to get away with giving the minimum that they can, and sometimes paying not even enough to live. And I mean, Walmart's the most famous example of not giving health care so that the people who work at Walmart then have to go get on Medicaid or welfare.
She did have full benefits in this case.
Again.
And she had time off
I think it's very tempting to discredit this one person who, again, I don't know. None of us know. Maybe she's great. Maybe she's horrible.
So do you stand behind your retweet and your support of her?
I absolutely stand behind bringing this up, that companies should pay people a livable wage, and that it is not an excuse to be well, you took the job for what we were offering it for, so which tends to be the reaction that I got.
Counterpoint?
So I'm going to
see you rolling your eyes.
Well, no. So the first thing to think about.
Your eyes hit the roof when he was talking. So what is that about?
Well, so I want to make a couple of different points that are completely different ones.
Okay.
First one, this is the kind of job that people will have now when they're leaving college, rather than maybe 50 years ago when it would have been a manufacturing job or a different kind of job like that. It is part of the reason why we're having this political cycle, why Trump and Sanders are doing so well, because jobs that used to be more livable, were more manufacturing, were more secure, are now service jobs like this, where you go insane listening to these people complain all the time in a dual class structure. That said, I'm just going to read one of the quotes from my newsletter from one of the people, two of them actually, that sum up a lot of my points. Yes, so Tech Caucus with a dot before the U.S.
Okay.
Talia Jane was totally out of line and needs to learn how to live within her means and succeed. Get roommates, get a second job, get more relevant education, work harder. She was blaming her employer for cost of living issues and suggesting she should be paid more just because. And then a second quote, which is from someone you know, bleeping millennials, earn something for once in your damn life. I'm a millennial and I had to be a waitress through most of my first startup because I had no money, so bleep the hell off.
Okay. Here's what I would say to sort of reframe this a little. This pure, untouched, free market, you have to let pure competition rule, and any attempt to tweak it or regulate it or make things any better for the people who actually live and work in this system is a new idea and a ludicrous idea. And we have spent decades and so much money convincing Americans that this is true, that they believe it. They think
not anymore.
If you unfettered, if a capitalist system is allowed to work as a perpetual motion machine, well, I think things like Bernie Sanders' candidacy is starting to poke holes in this idea, but man, it has taken a long time. And this doctrinaire idea that you couldn't regulate, you can't have a minimum wage at all. And I'm not even saying what the minimum wage should be. I had a lot of people go seriously write me there can't be any minimum wage at all. A minimum wage guarantees total unemployment and will destroy the economy. And it's come on, guys. No, it won't. We know it won't.
Hey, everybody. Let me stop for a moment, this amazing episode, and tell you about the Walker Corporate Law Group. Yes, they are a boutique law firm that specializes in the representation of entrepreneurs and startups. And Scott Walker is the founder of that company, and he is a personal friend of mine, and he does a great job working with startups. I have literally introduced him to dozens, maybe hundreds now, of startups, and they all rave about the services of the Walker Corporate Law Group because their lawyers have decades of experience. You're not going to get junior associates who are getting on-the-job training with your startup. No. They're going to help you with mergers and acquisitions, licensing, terms of service, privacy policies, formation, all this kind of stuff, fundraising, and they're really great at it. And they do fixed fees. They don't want to surprise people with crazy bills. They think that billable hours can reward inefficiency, so they'll just be fair with you. And that's what I love about them, because if you're a startup, you don't want to get that sticker shock and get a huge bill. Make sure you use the Walker Corporate Law Group, and you can do that by calling Scott Walker at 415-979-9998. 415-979-9998. You can email him, scott@walkercorporatelaw.com, or you can visit walkercorporatelaw.com as well. Scott@walkercorporatelaw.com, and let Scott Ed Walker on Twitter know, at Scott Ed Walker, know that you watch the program and you appreciate him supporting independent media like This Week in Startups. One of my oldest advertisers, one of my oldest friends in the industry, just a great guy, a total mensch, and he really takes care of the startups who work with him. Thank you, Scott Walker, for supporting This Week in Startups. Bye-bye. Okay, let's get back to this program. Come on.